So let's walk through this Gaudreau decision. And I've never been more excited and or interested to hear a player explain his choice and decision. So he takes less money, somewhere between, I don't know, 15 to $17 million less. The offer on the table on good authority, 10 and a half times 8 in Calgary, including significant structure and term and signing bonus, all those things that they were looking for. So he takes less. He goes 500 miles away from home. And he's on a team that's significantly worse now in the Columbus Blue Jackets. You go from the Pacific Division winner in Calgary to a team that's rebuilding. How does this happen? What happened?
I wondered, does he look at Columbus like Artemi Panarin looked at the New York Rangers when he signed there? As you know, they're in a rebuild.
The opposite?
No, because they were in a rebuild when he signed there, right? And then they built up some guys. Now they got lucky in the draft lotteries, make no mistake about it. But I'm just curious if he looks at Columbus and feels like, oh, you know what? Maybe they got some guys coming. But my question to this, Frank, is because I had tweeted out, I was like, hey, Laine and Gaudreau. But then I realized Patrick Laine's not signed yet. I know He's got a qualifying offer, but they don't have enough cap space to sign Patrick Laine currently. They're going to have to move somebody.
Yeah, so Aaron Portzline from The Athletic, who was the first person to hint at the Gaudreau possibility, and that wasn't until 5 p.m. Eastern, said that they do have enough space and their plan is still to sign Patrick Laine, even with Johnny Gaudreau, that they'll make room elsewhere, which is probably somewhat easy to do. When you said Panarin, I was thinking the opposite. Panarin's thing was like, I want to get to a big market. I want to go to the glitz and glamour of Broadway. I'm like, Johnny Gaudreau is known as, I don't want to say a different guy because I don't think that that's necessarily fair, but I think it's probably safe to say he's a pretty quiet guy and a somewhat shy guy. And so maybe he wants to be in a place where there's not much attention. Like maybe that's what made Columbus super attractive to him.
100%. I'd heard that, Frank. To me, when I signed that, I was like, there's a guy. And here's the thing. The Columbus hockey fans, it's a diehard, passionate fan base. It's just not a massive fan base. That's all. But the Blue Jackets fans, they're highly loyal. It's a really good atmosphere. I've been to the rink in Columbus. I actually really like it. I'm one of the rare guys.
I would never slag Columbus. I actually like the city. It's a good it's still one of the most anonymous franchises in pro sports, and I don't care what anyone says.
That's totally fair. It's funny because as I was having quick dinner with my wife and son before the pod, and I explained to them that, Johnny Gaudreau had left Calgary there, and so I was playing, okay, well, guess where he went? And I gave him hints. It was in the Eastern Conference, their name and teams. And like, what? And my wife's like, God, I forget Columbus is in the league. Now, granted, my wife's not a huge NHL hockey fan, but you're right. I think Columbus maybe isn't that one, but this will give them, like, Patrick Laine accepted a trade there. Now you got Johnny Gaudreau that's going there. Like, who knows? Maybe the things are changing in Columbus. Maybe this is their jumping off point because
maybe
we'll see. But it is surprising. I will say this though, Frank, the New Jersey Devils, I know they were always interested in it, but I never understood the Devils' interest because I felt like they would have too many small forwards in their top six. And I just didn't think that was a recipe for success.
Yeah, but I think that's an easy thing to fix, right? Like you can always add some players with edge after the fact, right? I think at least. Maybe not quite as skilled, but you can find a complementary piece here or there. No. It's so much harder to find. Like where are you going to get a point per game players? We've talked about this for a year. Point per game players don't make it to market.
No,
not only that, but 115 point guys that finished second in league scoring last year, right in the heart of their career. It doesn't happen. So to think that you're sitting there in your New Jersey and you've got $23 million in cap space or whatever it is, and you're not able to get it, like you've got Hughes, you've got Hischier down the middle. They traded Pavel Zacha on Wednesday, and you're thinking, all right, this is what they're setting up, is to get to this moment. You can have Bratt and Gaudreau on the wings. Like I'm surprised that it didn't. And there were rumblings out there. I'd be curious to see what the Devils ultimately say. So I don't like, I don't, so we don't know a lot of details at the moment. So this is purely just me spitballing and speculating and trying to wrap my brain around it. A couple things happened. One, either Gaudreau didn't have as robust of a market as he thought and ends up in Columbus by default, or a team like New Jersey was in the mix. And one of the things that I had heard as Wednesday went on was perhaps the Devils had balked at some of his ask for signing bonus, because that was one of the things that he asked for in Columbus, or excuse me, in Calgary, was so much of that deal to be in signing bonus, like a big part of it, 75% of it or more. Interesting that in Columbus, he signs 7 times 9.75 straight salary. So then I'm like, okay, well, that pours cold water on that. He doesn't get any signing bonus, I don't think. And you're like, holy smokes, like what happened here? Were the Islanders, were they in and then backed out? Like they have cap issues just like the Flyers. I think ultimately, Jay, the Flyers were interested and intrigued. They really were intoxicated by the buzz that Johnny Gaudreau had created in the marketplace, because for the first time in my life that I can remember living here, born and raised, the Flyers have become a non-entity in town. They're not a thing. And I wonder if they were feeling the need to get in on it. And they obviously didn't in the end, but because of, ticket sales are going to shoot up, because of interest, because your team's going to be better. All those things I think were intriguing, but they just found the price to, and I know they explored the market for James Van Riemsdyk pretty significantly to try and move him. I think there were 5 to 6 teams in the end that were asking for a significant price, including a first round pick. Buffalo, Chicago, Arizona, Detroit. So they did all their homework. Like they knew what that market was to get off of James Van Riemsdyk. And they were just like, we're not doing it. We're not doing that. Plus the mega deal for Gaudreau, plus, how this hams up our cap space moving forward. They just felt like maybe they weren't one player away from being a team that needed him.
Yeah. And that makes total sense. Right. So, well, I credit Columbus for stepping up. It's a huge day for their organization. Arguably, maybe the biggest day in franchise history when you think about it. As far as
everyone leaves,
yeah,
think about all the talent they've had there, and no one ever like. What's the last marquee Columbus free agent signing you can think of?
Well, Zach Werenski, I guess, right? He stayed, but that would
he stayed, but he was drafted there. That's different.
Yeah.
Who's the last unrestricted free agent marquee? Big boy, big contracts out, that Columbus signed.
Yeah, no, it's rare. I will say this though.
Nathan Horton, like who is it? Like I can't, it's gotta be, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like there's none that I might be missing one. There's not any that jump off the page that I can think of. Like they've acquired some pretty big names via trade, but not so much via free agency. And I'm a big believer of free agency. Market's a part of it. And obviously this is an exception because usually guys will go to winning teams, right? Like, New York's different, right? New York has a massive advantage, especially, you mentioned Panarin earlier, Frank. The Russian community in New York is very enticing for a lot of Russian players to want to go there. They love it. And I totally can understand that, right? You get a little bit of a taste of home when you're there in the Russian community in New York. But, you look at teams that want to sign free agents. When you're a winning team, it changes, right? Like now Edmonton always overpaid free agents. Today, they didn't have to overpay any free agent, right? And because they're winning.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you feel now if you're Calgary? Like you could at least wrap your brain around and understand the need to go home. Like you're like, you know what? No matter what we did, it wasn't going to happen. Like it just wasn't in the cards for us. We treated you well, but you're off to your next thing. And you had something we couldn't match.